event this evening is intended as a demonstration of solidarity with the continuing struggle for freedom and democracy in China, but also as an act of remembrance of those Chinese citizens, most of them very young, who gave their lives in the hope that China would become a democratic country respectful of human dignity and the rule of law. We are here to testify that they did not die in vain.
We have to make sure that those who are fighting for freedom all around the world know that we will always stand with you. We've seen this both continuing in China with the repression that we've seen across the board. And the Chinese government has to know that we fundamentally believe and we know that the rights of man, the rights of a person to be free, those are rights that are inherent. They do not come from a government, and they cannot be stomped out by a government.
30 years have passed since the brutal crackdown on democracy. Activists in Tiananmen Square. I vividly, personally remember the images of a communist regime attempting desperately to silence the voices of the Chinese people. Although the protests were suppressed and the crowds were forcibly dispersed, those who stood together did not give up their fight. The dream of a better future for China, a more democratic future, is alive and well today. China Aid and the group's founder and president, and I must say a fellow Texan, Bob Fu, represents that legacy. He refused to surrender the dream of a free China, where all religions can worship peacefully. Bob is a noble example to others. China Aid has worked to expose the human rights abuses in China and is one of the loudest voices calling for the end of China's arbitrary and brutal rule. I want to offer my congratulations to Bob Fu and offer this award to him.
I really want to thank our fellow freedom fighters from other faith communities, from our Tibetan friends, from the Uyghur friends. When the Chinese Communist Party attack one group, when we cannot practice faith from one group of faith, none of our faith is free. I'm very thankful that today we can join hands together with one voice and tell the Chinese communist regime, enough is enough. The Communist Party is built by lies after lies. They don't want to know the world to know the truth about their atrocity. They don't want to the 1.3 billion people to know that their fellow citizens had been persecuted. I think the world will be safer and better and much freer when we tear down that internet firewall of the People's Republic of Amnesia. Thank you. Thank you.
I think that we've all believed ever since, since I was a little boy, when Nixon went to China, and since that time, we've always believed that the more the Chinese were exposed to our way of life, to our democracy, to our capitalism, to the Western world, that they would adopt our ideas, that they would become more like us. And that just hasn't happened in any way, shape, or form. And I'd love to speak to you about all these different groups that we are recognizing tonight, but I just want to join with all of you in congratulating one particular agency for the work that they're doing and ask them to come and speak for themselves. Let's hear it again for the Tibet Action Institute.
In June 1989, I was 13 years old, watching coverage of the students protesting in Tiananmen Square with my father. I will never forget the newfound feeling of hope and possibility that this could be the moment that would change everything. That might mean my dad could go home again to Tibet after 30 years in exile. But that opportunity for change was lost, and not just because of the crackdown, but because in the years that followed, the free world lost its way in holding Beijing accountable. Faced with the escalating crisis of repression today, I believe we must ask ourselves, what can we do differently? If 6 million Tibetans, armed with nothing more than nonviolent resistance, and the Buddhist monk as their leader, can stand up to China time and time again, so can the rest of the world. We are here today not just to mark a historic moment or because things have gotten so much worse, but because we have to act, to right the wrongs of the past, and to pick up from that moment 30 years ago that was alive with hope and possibility, and this time to get it right. Thank you.
Since 2017, the Chinese government has locked up perhaps more than 1 million Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims in mass internment camps. We should know the number of detainees by now, but we don't, because the Chinese government refuses to disclose it. We know these camps are an attempt to stamp out the Uyghur identity. Detainees face daily brainwashing, abuse, and starvation diets. They are forced to denounce Islam, to study Xi Jinping thought, and to sing in praise of the party. Meanwhile, some of their children, left without parents, are made into wards of the state. The Uyghurs living abroad cannot contact families and friends from home. It is long past time for the world to send a clear message that the Chinese government cannot perpetrate these abuses with impunity. The World Uyghur Congress has been in the lead in tirelessly advocating to call the world's attention to the plight of the Uyghur people, and in doing so, it has shined a bright light on how this systemic and technologically advanced repression may shape China going forward. They serve as defender of the identity of their people and an inspiration to others. And so I am pleased to present them with NED's 2019 Democracy Award.
While we are deeply proud and honored to receive this award, we cannot lose the focus. Despite best effort and all progress we had made in the past year, the concentration camp arbitrarily detaining millions of Uyghurs have not been closed. Despite all of our work, Uyghurs in East Turkistan are suffering and being denied and their most basic rights. We cannot stop until all those detained in the camp have been freed. We will not rest until the Uyghur people enjoy democracy, human rights, and freedom. It is a time entire world stand up for the Uyghur. It is a time free for 3 million Uyghurs who are suffering in the concentration camp. I think it is a time also US Congress passed, approve the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act. Thank you for your attention.
The whole world understood what happened, and the courage was just so dazzling of all of these young people. Now today we have many veterans of Tiananmen here, all of whom demonstrated that courage, all of whom command our respect, all of whom, each of whom has taught us a lesson about courage. If we do not speak out for human rights in China because of an economic relationship, we lose all moral authority to talk about human rights any place in the world. I have that goddess of democracy, and I display it with great pride in my office. Thank you, Thomas Marsh, for uniting us all with that beautiful, beautiful statue, and that it comes to you from the National Endowment for Democracy is such a great imprimatur. There could be none better than to say what a champion you are, how we all globally recognize that. Thank you for your courage. Congratulations on the recognition you are receiving. We still have very important work to do.